In the small town of Blackwood, rumors spread like wildfire. It was said that every autumn, when the leaves began to fall, the shadows came alive. The townsfolk would whisper about strange occurrences, disappearing pets, eerie sounds echoing through the night, and glimpses of dark figures flitting between the trees. The most chilling tales spoke of the Hollow Ones, spirits that haunted the woods, preying on the living. Rachel had just moved to Blackwood, unaware of the town's dark reputation. Seeking a fresh start, she rented a small cabin at the edge of the forest. The first few nights were peaceful, the sounds of nature lulling her to sleep. But soon, Rachel began to notice things that set her on edge. One night, as she was settling down with a book, she heard a soft tapping at the window. It was subtle at first, like the rustle of leaves. But when she glanced up, she was met with darkness. No wind, no moonlight, just a thick, suffocating blackness pressing against the glass. Just the trees, she reassured herself, shaking off the unease. But deep down, she felt an unshakable presence lurking just outside. Chapter 2. The First Encounter. The following evening, Rachel ventured into the woods, hoping to dispel her fears with some exploration. The forest was beautiful, with vibrant autumn colors painting the landscape. But as she walked deeper, the vibrant hues faded into dull browns and grays. The sunlight barely penetrated the thick canopy, and an unsettling silence enveloped her. Suddenly, she felt a cold breeze, followed by a whisper that seemed to echo in her mind. "Leave while you can." Startled, Rachel spun around, but there was no one there, just shadows stretching and twisting among the trees. Her heart raced, and she decided it was time to head back. As she retraced her steps, she noticed something, a figure standing between the trees. It was tall and thin, shrouded in darkness, with hollow eyes that seemed to draw in the light. The figure raised a hand, beckoning her closer. "Who are you?" Rachel called out, her voice trembling. The figure didn't respond, but stepped further back into the shadows, disappearing from view. Fear clawed at Rachel's chest, and she ran, the whispers growing louder behind her. Chapter 3. The Town's Secrets. That night, Rachel couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. She sat on the porch, her mind racing with thoughts of the figure. As she gazed into the darkness, she remembered the townsfolk's hushed conversations. There had been talk of a group of teenagers who had ventured into the woods last autumn and never returned. Determined to learn more, Rachel decided to visit the local library the next day. There, she met Mrs. Thompson, the town librarian, who seemed to know the history of Blackwood like the back of her hand. "Ah, the Hollow Ones," she said, her voice tinged with fear. "They say they're the spirits of those who got lost in the woods, searching for a way back home. But they never find it. Instead, they become the shadows, waiting for others to join them." "Why does this happen?" Rachel asked, her curiosity piqued. "Some say it's the forest's curse. Others believe it's a warning," Mrs. Thompson replied. "Whatever the case, you'd be wise to heed the tales. Don't wander too far into the woods after dark." That night, Rachel couldn't sleep. The wind howled outside, rattling the windows as she recalled Mrs. Thompson's words. She decided to call it a night, but just as she was about to drift off, she heard the tapping again, louder this time. It was almost rhythmic, like someone was trying to get her attention. "Stop it!" she yelled, feeling a mix of anger and fear. But the tapping only grew louder, echoing through her mind. Chapter 4. The Descent. The next day, Rachel decided to confront her fears head-on. Armed with a flashlight and her phone, she entered the woods once more, determined to find the figure from the other night. As she walked, the atmosphere shifted. The trees seemed to lean closer, their gnarled branches reaching out like skeletal hands. Shadows danced around her, and she felt the weight of unseen eyes watching her every move. "Hello?" she called out, her voice trembling. There was no response, only the rustle of leaves in the wind. Suddenly, her flashlight flickered and she was plunged into darkness. Panic surged through her. "No, no, no," she cried, frantically tapping the flashlight. Just then she saw it. The figure emerged from the shadows, closer this time. It was just as she remembered, with hollow eyes and an unsettling grin. "Join us," it whispered, its voice echoing in her mind. "No!" Rachel screamed, backing away. The figure advanced, its shape becoming more defined, revealing a face twisted in anguish. "You can't escape,"